In Tovshin Chafalev, which is 1961, I learned in the Lubavitcher Yeshiva on Bedford Avenue. And my chavrusa was Leibel Kaplan, Olav Sholem, who was later the shliach of the Rebbe to Tzfas. And we were chavrusa together. That year in the yeshiva, we learned Mesichta Ksubis. When we learned Mesichta Ksubis Daf Lamed Gimel, there the Gemara talks about what is more chomer, what is a stricter punishment? Malchus, given 39 lashes for doing an avera, or the Bezdin killing somebody for an avera. And the Gemara has two sides. And the Gemara wants to show, first, that Malchus could be worse than Misa. Because Rav said, Ilmolei nogdu l'chananya mishol v'azariya polcha l'tzalma. And if the government, the king, would have not thrown Hananya, Mishael, v'Azariah into the fire, trying to force him to worship Avodah Zarah, and they didn't care, they let themselves be thrown in. But had he ordered that they should beat them, could be they would have bowed down to the Avodah Zarah, to the Tzelem. So we see that being beaten, which is similar to the union of Malchus, is worse than dying. And the Gemara answers, no, it's not ayah. They're not the same. Malchus has an end. It's 39 lashes and that's it. But the beating of the Malchus, the beating of the Goyish government, has no limit. And therefore that could be worse than Misa, but not regular Malchus. When we learned this Gemara, we couldn't understand, how could you say that such great tzaddikim, that had they been given Malchus, had they been beaten, even if it's ein lekitzvah, even if it's something that is not limited to 39, it's more than that, they would have bowed down to Avodah Zarah. It's very hard to understand. We tried to ask different people, we couldn't understand. We were still very young, we didn't really understand how the Rebbe's every second is precious. So we decided together, Leibel Kaplan and myself, that we'll write to the Rebbe the question. And he actually had experience, because when he was much younger, and he still lived in England, he wrote a letter to the Rebbe from England asking a question on Chumash, and the Rebbe actually answered him a letter. So he's experienced of writing to the Rebbe. So we sat down together and we wrote to the Rebbe this shaila: how could we say that they would have bowed down just because they would have gotten Malchus? And even if we'll say it's Malchus, ein lekitzvah, it's a beating that doesn't have an end. So the Rebbe answered us. We're still young kids, but the Rebbe answered us. And I can't find actually what I wrote down, the Rebbe's answer. I looked high and low for it, and I can't find it. But what I do remember for what the Rebbe answered is Ayin Hagos Yavitz. Look into the Hagos of the Yavitz, which is Rabbi Yankev Emden, on this Daf and Gemara. And then the Rebbe wrote something else, a few more words, and I just don't remember. But what it says in the Yavitz is that he learns Pshat, that there it's ein lekitzvah by the goyim, it's beating that has no end. Doesn't mean has no end. It's not, we don't know how much. It's not, could be not 39, maybe it'll be 55. So the Lashon he says is that what would have been, they would have made them have Yisurim b'hakoyes retzufes b'li kitzvah, beating them constantly without an end. Shoy Yisurim nimshochim, the Yisurim would have gone on loisho, not an hour, lo yom, not a day, v'lo yomayim, not 2 days. Elohim etzave lahasmid b'makes achzorius, they would have told him to constantly give him the most terrible, terrible pain, most terrible beating, as long as they wouldn't do the will that the king wants. In this is the case where he said that they could have bowed down. This is something that a person cannot stand. It's impossible for a person to stand, and that's what the Gemara means. So the Rebbe sent us to look in the Yavitz, but then he added a few more words, and unfortunately, I don't remember, and I can't find the zettel.